Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. Today's video has been requested by several people and thought it would be a good idea to kind of talk about, and that is having a dry wedding. So if you're unfamiliar with the concept of what a dry wedding means, that basically is a wedding without alcohol. So there might be a lot of reasons why you would choose to have a dry wedding. Maybe it's religious reasons or personal reasons, or maybe you just don't want to foot the bill for alcohol for all of your guests, which alcohol tends to be one of the largest expenses for your wedding, so it makes sense. The tricky part here is most people anticipate a bar or alcohol of some kind when they are attending a wedding. So here are some ideas on how to sort of navigate this process and ways to have an enjoyable and successful dry wedding. So if you do not plan to have any alcohol at your wedding, you want to make sure that you at least have a lot of other types of beverage options available. And you can really take this opportunity to be as fun and creative as you'd like. And I've seen some really cool things done in the place of alcohol, like having a build your own lemonade bar where you can add different types of ingredients and different fruits and really get creative here, or just have a lot of different options of types of drinks. Like here in Montana, huckleberries are very popular, and an alcoholic drink that's very popular at weddings is to have a huckleberry lemonade with vodka. You can still do this and have huckleberry lemonade or huckleberry slushy or something like that, just minus the alcohol, and it's still a very enjoyable drink and something that I think guests would really enjoy. So you can get pretty creative here when it comes to drink options. Just make sure that you have a good variety and plenty of them so that it's not going to run out and guests still have something to hold in their hand and something to enjoy. I've also seen fun things like having snow cones or popsicles or milkshakes or something like that to kind of take the place of the enjoyment of alcohol, so that you have something that's a little bit more exciting than just lemonade or soft drinks or something like that, but still not going to be quite the cost of what alcohol is. In addition to having a lot of enjoyable options for non-alcoholic beverages, it's also a good idea to have a plan for overall entertainment for your guests. So typically at a wedding, dancing is one of the main activities of the evening after all of the formal wedding and dances and toasts and all of those things end, and primarily that is accompanied with alcohol, which tends to make the dance floor even bigger. And so when you cut out that factor, you're likely not going to have that caliber of a dance floor, or maybe you aren't even planning to have a dance floor or have music, but do think of some kind of entertainment to have for your guests to kind of take the place of the bar. So maybe that's, if you're having an outdoor wedding, maybe that's having a bunch of lawn games. And I find that guests really enjoy having activities to do at an outdoor wedding. So cornhole, ladder golf, I've even seen ping pong tables set up at weddings. You can get really creative, do a giant Jenga, however you want to do this, but just have some sort of entertainment for your guests. This could also mean having a fun photo booth for guests to use and interact with, or maybe having a live band instead of a DJ, so that the live music is the entertainment and not necessarily only there for dancing, as live music is enjoyable to just sit and listen to the live music as well. And that way you still are entertaining your guests and not worried about them having a good time, but not necessarily needing to supply the alcohol in order to have that good time. So a couple things to consider if you are planning on having a dry wedding is the evening is likely not going to last as long as if you were to have alcohol. So you also probably want to prepare yourself for people to leave early. If you're not telling guests ahead of time that there won't be alcohol and they show up expecting to have alcohol, find out there isn't any, and they're the type of person that wants to have a party and enjoy alcoholic beverages, they're probably going to leave early to find it elsewhere. And if that happens, just know that it has nothing to do with you, and that's just how they want to spend their evening. So don't get upset if people leave early simply because there isn't any alcohol. That being said, if you do plan to have a dry wedding, it could be really beneficial to have an early wedding ceremony and reception. This way, not only are people not necessarily expecting alcohol as much at an earlier, maybe brunch, late morning wedding ceremony and then reception to follow. But you'll also have a more natural ending and won't be awkward or feel like it's ending early because there is no alcohol. If you're not having alcohol simply because you don't want to have that expense, but you do want to have a little bit of alcohol, maybe consider having just a champagne toast. That way you are providing a little bit of alcohol. You get to have that nice champagne toast during your dinner and during toasts, but you don't have to supply alcohol for the entire evening. So a question that I see a lot when considering to do a dry wedding is, do you need to tell guests ahead of time that there will be no alcohol? Now, in my opinion, this is at your own discretion, so your own personal preference. There's kind of pros and cons to each. I don't think that it is necessary to tell guests ahead of time that there is not going to be alcohol, for a couple of different reasons. If you do, it's almost like you're telling them to bring their own, or it's like an invitation to bring their own, like, hey, we're not going to have alcohol, so if you want to get drunk, it's on you. And this could be very detrimental to everybody involved, because if your venue does not allow outside beverages, depending on what their liquor license is, and people are bringing outside alcohol on site, you could be hit with a pretty hefty charge, and that's not something that you're going to want to deal with on your wedding. On the flip side, however, if you are getting married at a place where you can bring your own alcohol and that's something that you would be fine with your guests doing, maybe you don't care if there is alcohol there, you just don't want to supply it, then that is a great time to, yes, let your guests know ahead of time that there will not be alcohol. So if they would like to consume alcoholic beverages, they will need to bring them. But again, make sure that the venue that you are getting married at allows outside alcohol on the premise before you tell guests to bring any of their own. While guests will probably expect and anticipate alcohol to be at your wedding, it's not a requirement, and you don't need to let them know that there won't be alcohol ahead of time if you don't want to. They will find out when they get there, and they can make the choice to stay and hang out and not need alcohol to have a good time, or they will feel that they want it and they will leave, and that's just that. Whatever your reason is to have a dry wedding, it's definitely possible, and you can still have a very enjoyable wedding without alcohol. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we will see you next week.